Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet. Every single day here, get them online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. Remember, we were talking recruiting. It's been a huge week for recruiting, man. And Shea Dixon was...
Nearly killed him.
Yes, it did. Checking in on our boy as he's okay, giving us 10 minutes here. Thank you, bro. Pushing through. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. I was in Denver and Boulder for about a week, enjoying some nice 60 to 65 degree weather. Came back here yesterday, I guess Monday, and felt like I had a little head cold. I checked midday yesterday. The weather was 89. Feels like 102. Degrees. Yeah, it felt like 102. I said, "Oh my god!" But I'm back. I'm here on the phone.
Sticky hot, bro. Welcome back home. I can only imagine I love the summertime in Colorado.
There's nothing better.
It is so green.
So green.
Red Rock.
Oh, Red Rocks. That's a different kind of sticky there.
Who'd you see?
Cool. Saw Motet, which I'd actually seen before in New Orleans, but I would have seen anybody. It could have been a movie playing on that night. I'd never been to Red Rock, so when everybody was actually down to go on the Friday night, we locked in the tickets. Yes, as Lloyd so eloquently noted, a different type of sticky. I'll tell you this, all of the concert, festival, partygoers did not die off with COVID. I saw them. They're bad.
It kills it.
Like cockroaches, that community.
Yes.
Just give us a crack.
They breathed in worse things than COVID,
Just a little bit of
you.
sunlight. We'll be there.
Yeah, nitrous kills all of that.
Shea, a little bit of recruiting. The Le'Veon Moss. Let's start there before we talk about LSU and all of the participants and the visitors and the offers and everything that went out. Le'Veon Moss committed to Alabama over the weekend. He's a 4-star running back out of Estruma right here in Baton Rouge and is a top target for Kevin Falk and LSU. What do you make of that commitment, and what does that do for the rest of this ride?
I'm not overly shocked by it. He was a kid. Moss has been a kid who's kept pretty quiet, doesn't say a ton about his recruitment one way or the other. And he was at LSU right out of the gates last Wednesday. So that would have been the second, had a visit, got to hang out with Falk and all them, but then made his official visit up to Alabama this past weekend. And they pressed him to commit and obviously want to make a little bit of splash in Louisiana and Baton Rouge as best they can. He's a good player. But I think that between kind of their push and then, the feeling on, his camp side of, okay, this might be a good fit for you, getting out of the city. Ultimately, we'll see. Look, I'm not surprised at all that he committed to Bama. Does he stick? I don't know. This is going to be such a weird recruiting process given last week. We've now had 8 days where coaches can even see kids face to face. So I think we're in for a lot of twists and turns. But for LSU, there's a bit of pivoting going on, and everyone sort of does it as, these dominoes fall, but they also had Trevante Citizen, who is a top 10, 12 ranked running back in the country on campus this past week. He's at Lake Charles College Prep. And while there are some guys around Baton Rouge, I like Marlon Gunn out at Scotlandville. A name to keep an eye on is Kamari Alston. He was Damari Alston. He was in town this past weekend on an official visit. He's out of Atlanta, Georgia. They recruit that area well. And he's a running back in that 5'10", 5'11", 205 range as a junior. If they can go away, you want two, right? And normally each class you're taking 2 running backs. You want Citizen or Moss. And getting both you always knew from the start might be a little tough. It seems right now with Moss going to Bama that Citizen training to LSU certainly makes a bit more sense. And then Kevin Falk has sort of circled Alston as another guy he really likes. So I think, again, this can go so many different ways given that coaches are finally able to see kids. But my guess, very far out from signing day, is that the running backs might be Alston out of Atlanta, and then they're going to do what they can to lock up Lake Charles' best running back in Trevante Citizen.
The camp over the weekend had a who's who in Baton Rouge, especially some of these high-end guys that are already committed to the class. What has been the feedback? I know that you weren't able to make it, but what has been the feedback from your point of view of having these on-campus camps and some of the immediate return that has shown for teams like LSU?
Yeah, from talking to Sonny and you guys did, he was out there all weekend, and then talking to some folks around LSU. There's a lot of great takeaways, right? They got every commitment that was, on board, and it was on campus at some point over the past week. That's a good goal to have. All your official visitors showed up, even 3 of them being offensive linemen, which was sort of an inopportune time to happen, even though Brad Davis from Arkansas was able to be down here this past weekend in a sort of non-official capacity, but just observing the camp. And he got to see Will Campbell, 5-star left tackle, who is an absolute beast. He held himself up really well, and you get Bo Borderline on campus, you get Walker Howard, all these different guys. But at the end of the day, like if I'm circling, and this would be no doubt because this was an opinion shared by everyone, you want to pick an MVP on each side of the ball. It was on offense, Jake Johnson, the tight end out of Georgia, who's obviously the brother of Max Johnson. We have him ranked as the number 1 tight end in the country. So it's not a surprise to hear, he showed up and he looked good. Nobody could hold him. I mean, he linebackers, corners, safeties. He was catching everything. Walker Howard was trying to build that early rapport with him, and evidently they looked great together. So Jake Johnson on offense and tight end, boy, what a need for them right now, especially knowing Gilbert's not coming back. You got to wait a year, but after that, Jake Johnson's, he's going to come in ready to go. The other one's right here, and we've talked about him on your show plenty, but Madison Prep's Quincy Wiggins, everybody said, that's a 5-star. Don't know what a 5-star looks like if that's not it. Yeah, right. And Orgeron loved it. I mean, he's out there coaching it up the whole time. And look, you're looking at a kid who a year ago, Coach Jones and the whole basketball team, they've got squad at Madison Prep, right? I mean, they see a kid who the football coaches is 6'5" and a half, 265, super athletic. They say, hey, you basketball scholarships aren't rolling in like you thought they would. Put on some football pads. See what you can do.
Come for a week and see what happens.
Yeah, he played 1 year of football in the pandemic, so a shortened season where no coaches could even go see him. I think he's at 31 offers right now. He was the best player across the line at LSU's camp, no doubt. And, I mean, that's your ideal fit for the defense they want to run, is a D end who's already in the 260 range, who has great size. He can rush a passer. He can play the run. He's a 3-down lineman, no doubt. I love where LSU stands. I mean, he said that nobody's recruiting him as heavily as LSU is. Orgeron, Andre Carter. He said Andre Carter's son hits him up, and he's in like 5th grade. He texts me, hey, keeping an eye on you, big bro. See you next week at camp.
You want to play bad?
You in that purple gold yet or what?
Right, huh? So they love him, and he's a guy who, trust me, Bama, everyone else will be on him, but I think the work done early on by LSU puts him in a good spot. He's good buddies with Emory Jones at Catholic and some other guys in this class. So I like where they stand early on, but great news there. This will be Mason Smith was a 5-star D lineman last cycle in Louisiana. I think we've got a shot now to see Wiggins reach that status. And anytime you can get look at that. Name the last time LSU had a 5-star, Louisiana had a 5-star left tackle and a 5-star D lineman in the same class. It's been a bit, so we might be trending that way.
What is the word on the streets of Brad Davis now at LSU coming from Arkansas and James Cregg out?
Yeah, I mean, all these kids seem to say, bummer that Cregg left, obviously, but they all know Brad Davis because he recruited him in Arkansas and handled a lot of the work that Pittman normally would have done, and now he's the head coach. So Arkansas recruits great O-linemen. Arkansas is one of the schools you think, it's Arkansas. They put their hat in the ring with every big O-lineman because they know that that's one thing they can sell. So Campbell, and look, they had Cam Dewberry and Kelvin Banks, a couple Texas offensive linemen, one of them being a 5-star in Banks, were in town this past weekend, and they all know Brad Davis. So from that regard, it's a big pull, right? Immediately he can hit the ground running, and he's already got relationships with all of your top targets. And people are going to ask, look, is it good or bad? I don't know. Even from a development standpoint and coaching standpoint, Cregg had 3 full recruiting classes. Not one of those guys had ever started a game at LSU. So Marlon Martinez maybe started a game when someone was banged up last year, but we're still waiting on Bradford and some of these, Doomerville, and obviously Garrett Dellinger just gets here. So on that front, we don't even know yet. But beyond that, you look, guys, that 3 recruiting classes, and when you look at outside the state, I think he only signed 3 guys who were 4-stars that weren't from Louisiana. It would have been Doomerville, Dellinger, and there would be one more in that mix. I'm probably just missing somebody, but that's not a ton, and then no 5-stars. So I think recruiting-wise, Brad Davis probably gives them a leg up right out of the gate.
Would it be Xavier Hill?
Was he? I think he was a high 3-star.
Okay.
I don't know who I'd be forgetting. Oh, no. Ray Parker was in state that first class, and Cardell was as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's only a couple of guys. So we'll see. But I think recruiting-wise, Brad Davis helps you immediately because, A, he does have the rapport with these kids, but B, it wasn't like, I mean, you compare it to other positions, they were not recruiting as well as offensive linemen as they were all the other positions. So almost by default, you're moving in the right direction.
Surprised to see a weekend like that come and go with no commitments?
Not really. And they handed out some new offers and all that. And there's a word of a silent that might have popped. And look, we'll see. Silence are always silent. That's it. Don't take it for much. When a kid goes public and is willing for everybody to know, including the other schools in the mix, that's when it starts to count. But no, I'm not shocked. They handed out a bunch of new offers. They had already had a bunch of kids committed. In fact, you saw Lucas Taylor, one of their longtime commits, come to camp, get eval, and ultimately move on and say, hey, look, I think both sides said, hey, we can find a better fit. And he ended up at State. I would have been more surprised if there hadn't been not cuts, but, mutual parting of ways, ongoing evals, whatever you want to call it, because they have so many guys committed that you needed to almost take a step back before you could take a step forward.
Shea Dixon, Go247. Remember, online you can follow him there and on Twitter at Shea Dixon to keep up with all the recruiting latest. And it is a busy time of the year right now in recruiting. Two of the faces that we saw over there were local kids here out of Baton Rouge, and Emory Jones and Shelton Sampson Jr. Out of Catholic High School. Anything on the latest on the offensive lineman and Jones and Sampson the wideout?
Yeah, Jones is up at Arkansas this past weekend, which is obviously bad timing for them too because they just lost their O-line coach. So it is, right? Everybody faces it a little bit differently. But he was on campus in fact, the very first day. So that would have been Tuesday the 1st, and was with his mom and got to sit down with Coach O and all of that and talk over things. So I like where they sit there. I've always liked where they sat for Emory Jones. I just don't think you can pick some schools around Baton Rouge that teams have been able to pluck elite guys out of. Catholic hasn't been one of them. So I like where they sit there. And then you move into the next class with Sampson, who, he's got the lineage. His dad obviously played high school ball in the area and then college ball in the state. I like him a ton. And again, I'll double down on that one. There's not Devonta Smith might be the only type guy. There's not a ton of times LSU's missed receivers in Louisiana. They end up elsewhere, and they also don't go leaving the state for receivers at time. And then they don't really have to. I mean, Deion Smith is probably who they traveled the farthest for in the last few years for a receiver, and he's the number one player in Mississippi and out of Jackson, which is not that far of a drive. So there's always so many receivers in Louisiana. You can just focus on those guys and ultimately lock him in. And they do a really good job of evaluating that spot. And to become, I think they were Sampson's very first offer, if not one of the first, and they had that Catholic High Pro Day, and he threw down some good testing times and measured in well. So they were in it from the start. They're not playing catch up. They've got Mickey Joseph. You've got Kevin Falk recruiting the area. He knows Coach O. I'd be a little surprised if both those guys don't wind up at LSU. I don't think for Sampson it'll be anytime soon, given he's still got 2 years left. But when all the dust settles on the Catholic kids, I think both of them wind up at LSU.
Derek Williams, 2023, at LSU earlier this week. This is a guy who played with Kayshon Boutte early in his career, but looks like another 5-star coming out of Westgate.
No doubt. And he was here this week already for a visit, and I think it was Monday he was here. But yeah, you mentioned, I think that, and they were his first offer. I know that for a fact. So he's now a composite 5-star. He's going to get the attention from schools all over the country. But again, I'll double back. When you're from New Iberia, it's tough for other people to come in there and just grab you. And we saw that with Boutte. I mean, Bama bent over backwards until signing day trying to get him, and now you see why. It was the real deal. You'll fight until the very end. I think Williams is that kind of player in the secondary. He's a safety for sure. But that early rapport with Corey Raymond and Raymond being from the area and now having Durante Jones in as a safeties coach in D.C., all of that stuff puts LSU at a little bit of an advantage. And toss in Kayshon Boutte. I mean, think about that. When he comes in for visits or when he has his official visit, he's going to be laying around posted up with his old teammate, and Kayshon Boutte is now the best player on the team. So there's the reality that he can see, okay, there's a path for me at LSU. The coaches, the Wampus, or not Wampus Cats, what are they? That'd be Leesville.
What is Westgate? Are they the Vikings?
I thought they were cat something. I don't know. It's early in the morning, boys. You don't need to be thinking that deep into
Colorado
this.
brain, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
That's head's fuzzy. But yeah, no, the coaches over there, Antoine and all of them, have been great to LSU. They've kept the door wide open through Butte's recruitment and put him on Derek Williams early to be the first offer, and now getting into the driver's seat by kind of hosting him right away and things like that. So I like where they stand there. And look, over this next cycle and the one after that, which would be the one Derek Williams is in, safety is a huge need. I don't even think they have a safety committed right now. And we've already identified that as a team need, they went and bulked up with Major Burns and a nice class. So I think it'll be paramount that they get him. And because of that, I think that they won't rest. They'll keep pushing until he's committed.
Westgate Tigers.
Oh, that's an easy call.
Tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, my goodness. Just same old.
Yeah.
Just stroll on over.
You mentioned safety being a need, and we had Julie Boudouin on, and she said that Jacoby Matthews may be the star of the 2022 class. Is he kind of flying under the radar a little bit for LSU?
I know it's tough for a five-star to fly under the radar, but when you've got Walker Howard and Will Campbell up there at the top, it sort of dominates the conversation. It's a lot of fun to talk about a quarterback and a left tackle, which the state doesn't often produce at a super elite level like Howard and Campbell are. But yeah, I think that no doubt that he belongs in that conversation with those two. I think that Jacoby as well is a guy who he's played both sides of the ball in high school, but safety, linebacker, wherever you want to put him, he can be one of the best players on the field for you. So I wouldn't be. Well, I know like safety is not the most desired NFL draft position, and linebacker certainly would be more, but I won't be surprised at all if he's a first-round pick, and that's kind of why we have tabbed him as that top 30 range player, and as a composite five-star, he's got it all: size, athleticism, he's got an understanding of the game, even more so now defensively that he's played a year of quarterback. I mean, when Finley left, he moved in, and they moved back to that sort of Wildcat veer offense, and he did well there. So I like him. I think he's a total package type guy, and he's definitely the best defensive player they have committed.
Get healthy. Thank you for the time this morning. We will talk soon.
I just hit a mute and a blow my nose, and I think I got away with it. And we're in the clear, brother.
You did, brother.
We're in the clear.
That was very well done. That was very well done. Enjoy the day, man. We'll talk soon.